Hello, 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 and welcome back to my channel. So we are gonna have a random chat with a few people, and yes, we have go-powered internet. As you could see there, we have our intro with Space Comma and Kepler leading us in. So I want to invite people to say hello to my guests. First of all, the man that makes this stream happen, fiddles around with buttons. Taddy Bogle, how are you after that?
Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Well, I'm in a very unfortunately fortunate position that I didn't get the fucking notification, so I missed most of it. But what I did hear was, ouch. Just your standard right wing Bible bashing bollocks, to be honest with you.
Pretty much, pretty much. And absolutely outraged in the chat. We had Parrot. How are you, Pip?
Fine, I've calmed down a bit now. As you probably know, cult are my jam, and that woman annoys the hell out of me. And she put on such an act tonight. That was not her.
Well, that should I be as well, Pip. There's no need to call her that.
We are going to get into that. And of course, coming over and visiting the head in the jar, Kevin Kennedy. How are you? Dead Kennedy in space. What's the story?
Hello. I'm hanging in there. I've tangled with the WBC before a little bit, and they're just awful people that honestly kind of drained the life out of me. But then I went and made a video about how Hans Wormhat thinks penguins are fake. So
yeah. That was a good
one. Beautiful.
Nice. And we are joined by Radical, the Unhallowed Knight, and Radical. How are you, Radical? What did you think of tonight?
I saw just the first part, and then I just had to step out because it was too annoying. The subject also doesn't really interest me. Religion is it's kind of a done deal on YouTube in my eyes. But hey, this lady, she made me go away much faster than usual. I couldn't stand her stupidity. I mean, let's be honest here. She wasn't debating. She was just talking.
She was preaching.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Because you're a big supporter of Agree to Disagree, aren't you? So what did you think of it being on that channel?
Well, I am not really for censoring, right? So it is. They are toxic people. That's just a thing. And if they want to have them on there and give them a platform, that's their prerogative. But the thing is, you do need to keep a bit of an eye on them. And they didn't really keep her in check from preaching. I mean, they are all way too nice.
Yeah, that's kind of why I decided, fuck it, we need to have a discussion about this. Yeah, you missed the not so debate tonight. It was more of a discussion, and it was more, as people have said, Plahol, it was more of a preaching platform. For me, okay, one thing that I have to get out there, because it's very, very recent, is I recently took part in, and a few others took part in, a huge 24-hour live stream, which the Plot Hole and Irish Demon kind of hosted. And we, thankfully, in spite of people like this, we raised over $1,000 for the Trevor Project. Now, for those who don't know what the Trevor Project do, they are an organization specifically set up to assist at-risk young LGBT people. And they do fantastic work, absolutely fantastic work. So in the back of my head tonight, while this thing was preaching, because I can't even call her a woman because she doesn't know. While she was preaching, all I could think was the astounding way our community came together last week. And as the Plot Hole is saying there, $1,150 we raised for the Trevor Project and at-risk LGBT youth. That was incredible. So it's in the backdrop of my mind, and I think that's why I didn't get so angry tonight. But I suppose, what was it for you guys that, I hate to use the word trigger, but triggered you? What was it? Was it the calmness? Was it the
Well,
absolute
I
bullshit
mean,
that she was spouting?
the calmness is frustrating because someone as hateful as her, you kind of want her to be a dumpster fire, but I didn't like that. Like, here's the thing. I understand everybody deserves a platform. I understand that viewpoint and everything, but you simply do not have to and should not be nice to people whose website is godhatesfags.com. It's not needed. And
Fucking wrong, man.
if you're gonna platform people whose website is godhatesfags.com, maybe pit them up against someone who didn't lose to a debate against Ken Hovind.
Yes, I was just thinking Godless Engineer was not the best opponent.
Well,
That's
so
just it.
what did you think of his performance there, Pip?
Crap.
In what way?
It's far too nice to her.
Yeah, I felt it was more
did.
trying to understand madness than actually challenge it.
Yeah.
And that's what bugged me.
If he did ask a question, she did not answer it. She just quoted scripture. He should have pushed to get an answer, a proper answer, a real answer, not something she's been told to say or brought up to say.
I mean, one thing for me is I grew up in a religious household. I grew up Catholic, but as part of my studies in university, I also studied the Torah, and I also studied Islam. I studied Hinduism as well. So in terms of religions of the world, and what really frustrated me is that every time these people are given a platform, they're made out to look like, I don't know, they represent religion. And nothing could be further than the truth. And yeah, welcome. So we have Flat Earth Peer Review. If you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself and your channel and give a rundown of what you do. You're muted.
Control D on your keyboard.
Control E, isn't it?
At the bottom of your screen there.
Little red icon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We can't do it for you.
Control and Delta.
No, Control E. Control E.
Or just click the button, the little red button.
Yeah, Control E.
No, Control E is for the camera.
Oh, it's for the camera. Shit.
Yeah.
Control D. Control D.
Yeah.
That's the one. I get it eventually.
Listen to the tatty. Control and Delta.
Where's the list? Where's the list of stuff?
I need a list.
There he goes.
There we go.
He's unmuted now.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Okay.
Yay.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello. Do you want to
Hello,
introduce
sir.
yourself and your channel and explain what you thought about tonight?
Sure, I'll try to do all of that and try to be brief at the same time. I'm not famous for being concise. So, FE Peer Review, you can call me Tony. And I've had my channel up for only about 6 weeks. I've been following the debates and the videos for about a year or so and found that it's just too difficult to contribute through words alone. So I decided to start doing some small video contributions because pictures are so helpful. Let's see. So about tonight, I heard a little bit of the conversation of you all as I was going and refilling or I should say, filling for the first time this evening, my glass of wine.
Cheers.
Oh. Hey.
I've got tea.
Slanjava.
And, I just wanted to offer a slightly different perspective on the one topic I heard being discussed as I was filling my wine glass, which was that I actually kind of appreciated what John did with letting her talk, because I felt like he just gave her a rope and she then went and hung herself with it. And I don't feel like she necessarily needed to be challenged in this particular venue. She faces lots and lots of challenges all the time. And it's nice to hear her sit there and say with a straight face that she's fine with dead babies and hates gays. It's like, all right, now we know for sure. How do you argue against, what do you say to somebody when they just say that? I mean, getting them to just admit that is like the battle's half won already. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you a question about that? Maybe,
Sure.
like, because the way I see it, if that's the intention is to give them enough rope to hang themselves, why is the venue even needed? Because WBC's views are pretty well known.
That's true. Totally understand that, and that's a difficult one to answer. I mean, do they really need another venue? I don't know. It seems to me like for her to come onto their channel, in a sense, is bringing more prominence to them because her group is already so much more well known. Does it benefit her and her group in any way? I don't see that it does really benefit her or her group. Maybe
Right.
maybe you can make a case that it does. I don't see that case right now.
That's a fair point, especially considering agree to disagree's audience. You're not going to find a lot of people sympathetic to the WBC.
I'd say 0.
If any, yes.
Micro Raptor says, I think Godless Engineer could have done better. He was too nice. And it's been said here. I understand that position, that, you know, let her talk, let her have the rope to hang herself. But the problem with this is, with agree to disagree, there's a lot of people coming onto that channel now who aren't from the debunk community. They're coming on from other venues or other avenues like Twitter and like other things. So the problem is, if you are going to have someone that's that vitriolic and can be that calm while being that vitriolic, you need someone there that is able to challenge not just the religious vitriol, but the personal vitriol, and that's what's coming out of her. It's not just religious fundamentalism; it's just personally disgusting. You know, someone that's able to challenge the overview of being a fundamentalist Christian and also a bad person. And I don't say bad person lightly. I don't even like calling people someone like a bad person. But that's what she is. She will go, she will bring her family from the age of naught out to funerals and scream at family members. There are videos. So what she said today, and this really frustrated me, was, you know, we're actually out of the way. We're hidden from view. We're not. The only reason why they're hidden from view is because there's a shitload of bikers in between them that follow them around and get in between them and the funeral. That's why they're hidden away. It's not because they choose to be hidden away.
Right. That reminds me of something she said during the stream that really bothered me, was that they're not loud, they're not intrusive or anything, and like a basic Google search will disprove that. Every funeral they go to, they shout, chant, "God hates fags." It's like,
or death to soldiers,
or death to soldiers, or thank God for AIDS, or horrible things like that.
You pointed something out there before the stream started, Kevin, that, you know, they had what was it? Thank God for 9/11.
Yeah. Well, because I was reading a little further about it, and I guess their whole thing is the reason, in their mind, the reason they say things like that is because in their mind it's important to thank God for smiting what they see as the heathens or whatever.
Yeah.
And the only reason they... Sorry, go ahead.
One thing that got to me, what she said, was that in her mind, she said something like, you know, Jesus never said to love everyone, or he never promoted love. He promoted the Gospels. Actually, the Gospels were written post-mortem of Jesus, but let's just leave that aside for 1 second. Having studied the Torah and having studied the Christian Bibles, Jesus was promoted as saying, love your neighbor as I have loved you. And there she is saying, oh, no, but we're all doomed. We're all screwed. But, you know, God said either a shitload of lashes or a few lashes, go for the few lashes. In which case, if we're all screwed, then what's the point in you showing up to harass family who just lost someone?
Yeah, you can't like argue the logic of their religion really, because we talked about it before the stream that by Shirley's logic, she's going to hell / deserves to die because her first son was born out of wedlock.
Yeah.
But
Which
she won't
is,
acknowledge
in my
that. She'll find
eyes,
a way to twist it.
go ahead, Kenny. I mean, to be fair, wasn't Jesus a bastard?
Technically.
Technically.
So what's going on here? Am I just using too much logic?
Yeah. Probably in logical radical.
Well, that was the one bit that I did manage to catch was when she turned around and said there's no free will. But at the same point, she expects people to let God into their life and change their ways and all that. But if we've got no free will, then how can we?
Can I pipe in on that point? I would have to go back through the video and try to find the spot, which I don't think I could do, but I felt like she said something that kind of went past fast, and I think a lot of people missed it, and it was the logic in her mind, which is that as she interprets her holy book, God, there's no free will. Based on what she understands from her holy book, there's no free will, and also there is a commandment by God to his believers that they should go out and proselytize. Now, it's just simply a commandment, and you do it because God said so. She does not actually expect that she is changing outcomes.
So she's just doing it to go through the motions.
Exactly. She's doing it because she's been told to, and she was all about obedience.
Yep.
So that's the separation that goes on, that in her mind, that's how she reconciles these two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I spent 2 years at a Jesuit university, and they love those kinds of logic games and that kind of analysis.
Once again, ouch. 2 years at a Jesuit university. Oh, dear, oh dear, oh dear. You have my sympathies, sir.
Thank you. No, I'll have a sip of wine.
We all could do with a sip of wine. I think I need something stronger, actually. Taddy, pass the whiskey.
Hey, now we're talking. Now we're talking. I hope that you don't mind a wee single malt for Isla. Slange you back.
So I think another whole debate with her that is purely scriptural type debate could be interesting to some people. I mean, that's kind of like probably of interest to some people. Personally, I wouldn't care to listen to it, but she should certainly be challenged by other Bible believers on their terms about how to interpret the book, because she basically says there's no such thing as interpretation, which
is an interpretation.
Exactly.
Like I don't mean to sound obvious.
Yeah.
I don't mean to sound obvious there, but that is an interpretation. And most Christians, I watch a lot of GM Skeptic. I do watch Godless Engineer from time to time. And most Christians, even the ones that I know in my own life, like I grew up as an altar server and in the church choir, you know, I know a lot of religious people. I live in Ireland. We have them. But a lot of Christians would go by the four main gospels, you know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and concentrate their Christian faith on Christ, on Jesus, on his words, or what his words are recorded as, not on the doom and gloom of the gospels, and not really on the Old Testament as much.
Yeah.
Well, that becomes a problem, right? If you try to argue that both the Old and New Testament are correct, you run into mountains upon mountains of contradictions.
Yes.
And that was actually that reminds me of something she said right near the beginning. Damn it, I can't remember how she phrased it, but she made a classic "No True Scotsman." It was basically the reason God also kills Christians is because they're not real Christians. And from that point onward, I was just like, I'm not interested. Your definition of a real Christian is completely arbitrary, so I don't care.
Exactly. And she did and it was kind of promoted a little bit, you know, cosplay Christians, and that's the way God this Engineer put it. She hadn't got a clue what cosplay was, which does not surprise me at all.
That actually kind of cracked me up. That was like a really big boomer moment.
He was making her point for her in an easy way for today's society to understand, and she just didn't get it. That amused me. That was the highlight.
Did anybody happen to notice in the side chat the readings from the Book of Fred?
Oh no!
I clocked one or two of them. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw
Book of Fred. Book of Fred, as in her old man Fred.
No. I just decided that we needed to hear some other sources represented, so I thought I would quote a few passages from the Book of Fred, various chapters and verses.
I think I've seen a Fred 324 at one point. I do believe.
Yeah. Book of Fred, he would definitely have approved of this glass of wine.
But, I mean, didn't Fred? Someone put it in the chat earlier. I think it was Saif DK. Put it in the chat earlier that Fred was kicked out on his deathbed because he wanted to be kinder to people.
So he sent me the link. He
tried to perform a deathbed conversion, and the rest of the church said no.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
SwipeDK sent me a link to the article. I also sent it to you, by the way. Yeah.
Brilliant. Hang on there. Oh, we have a doorbell. And we have a Hogan.
Timothy's wrong, Microraptor.
I see. But what Microraptor? I'm sorry, I'll let Amy introduce herself. But I want to mention what Microraptor said.
Go ahead before Amy unmutes.
Well, it's one of my favorite things of anytime I see a really crazy proselytizing Christian and they happen to be female, I'll always quote Timothy 2:12 at them. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence.
I've used that a few times actually against people. It's good fun. It's good fun.
The Jehovah's stick to that one. I must admit, the Jehovah's stick to that one. I'm not allowed to.
Yeah. Amy, how are you?
I am doing great, thank you. I was watching that debate and wow.
Yep, that's why I decided, you know what, halfway through, I was thinking about it beforehand and I wanted to make sure Taddy was free because he helps run the stream. I was like, you know what, people need somewhere to vent after that bullshit.
Absolutely. I think I was disgusted with her at first anyway. It was just a mild disgust. And then she got into that whole where it's all predestined that you're either going to go to hell or heaven, and she was talking about babies getting tormented, and that really set me off. I had to walk away. I was using strategies. Let's put it that way too.
Yeah, one of the interesting things there was the shock and awe treatment, because at the start of the stream, you were on, I think, at the start of the stream, and you were as well, Pip. Even before the stream had started, it was the absolute uncontrollable anger just bursting out of people, especially when she first came on stream and you saw that horrible fucking poster saying God sent the coronavirus, and just everyone was so outraged. And this is an interesting political tool. It's called the shock and awe treatment, that you shock your audience very, very early on, and then by the time you get to your more extreme crap, they've already outraged themselves into exhaustion kind of thing. So they left. Well, no, she doesn't know our people, because our people are fighting right to the end. That's a political tool. That is a political tool of shock and awe, and that's why she came onto the stream with that one, and then changed it to America is doomed.
Oh, did she change the sign partway through the stream?
Yeah.
Yeah, she might have got another one.
Oh yeah,
I
she
do
did.
think it's interesting. And it's when she changed it. It's when she changed it that she really started getting vitriolic and raising her voice. Because the shock,
I
the shock
missed all the
part
fun.
of it, I know. The shock part of it. No, she never screamed, she never shouted, she never got crazy like we expect her to. But you know, that shock of God sent the coronavirus to America is doomed with the more vitriolic tone, it's called shock and awe.
Absolutely.
I kind of have a question here. I mean, you don't have to answer, but who here came from a religion? Because I am, my entire life I've been, you know, non-believer or irreligious.
Yeah, I was brought up in the church.
Yep, I was Catholic.
I have one parent who's a non-practicing Christian and one parent who's an atheist who thinks all religions are scams.
I'm just asking. You don't have to answer, by the way. I just am curious about why her statements are shocking. Because from my viewpoint, they are nonsensical statements, regardless what she says. Of course, what she says is really disgusting, but the hell threat, it doesn't do anything for me. It's like, oh, hey, look at you playing make-believe.
Well, I wonder if that might be rooted in like religion having a much bigger role in American history. So maybe that insult has, or maybe that tactic has more weight to an American.
I'm guessing it is. I mean, from
Scotland, we just went to Sunday school because that was a done thing. It wasn't forced down my throat or anything.
Amy?
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it could be that. I guess too when they kind of softened the blow with that belief when we were growing up. You know, there was the concept of original sin, but if you were good, like what Creaky said, you know, this is what was explained to us when we were kids. If you were good, you'd go to heaven. If you were an awful person, you would not. I think it was just a matter of fact way and how happy she was about it that was most shocking as to what she was saying.
I think when you grow up in religion today, as opposed to, you know, the Dark Ages, like the Dark Ages kind of concentrated on how Jesus was murdered, not on what Jesus preached. And since the kind of Middle Ages on, you kind of have this move towards a more caring God, especially in the Christian and in some ways the Jewish faiths. You have the caring God and the all-knowing, all-loving. And as a child growing up in the church, it's rammed down your throat that you are a sinner, but you can be redeemed. You can be redeemed by following the scripture, by following the word of Jesus, and you will be saved. That your soul, you're not actually condemned for the rest of eternity. And for a lot of people who are already condemned to live in poverty during their life, the idea of being saved and being safe for all eternity, if they just keep going and just keep following the good path kind of thing, that's what's appealing. It's this loving God that emerged in around 150 years ago, 200 years ago. And it's only literally in the last 200 years that we've had a forgiving God and a loving God. And
it's almost as if our current laws have forced them to, you know, change some of the things they were preaching back in the day. I mean, let's be honest here. If you were practicing the things that are in the Bible right now, you're gonna go to jail. That's just the thing. So we have improved the laws, and they're now accountable because the power of the church is not, you know. Well, I'm Dutch. The power of the church is non-existent here.
So before Godless Scummer comes in, Kevin had something to say there.
I just kind of wanted to respond to something Tusk said in the chat. He said, the worst thing about WBC is that they're preaching exactly what the Bible says, word for word. I'm not one to leap to the defense of the Bible, but I would like to know where the Bible says word for word God hates fags, because I don't think it's in there. In my mind, they're reading the Bible. They're doing the radical interpretation. The root of the word, or the etymology of the word radical is root. When you follow something extremely closely to a T and leave no room for interpretation, that's when you become a radical. Same thing with Islamic radicals. They take a very specific interpretation of the Quran, and I think WBC does the same thing. They have a very specific teaching of the Bible that is an interpretation and not its literal words.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like with the Gospels, a lot of it is parables. It's stories to live your life by, and that for a lot of moderate Christians, that's what it's about. It's about stories, to live your life by. It's not meant as word for word literal bullshit, if you know what I mean.
A book of
I want a
allegory.
better word than bullshit, but it is bullshit.
Well, I do believe the official term is horseshit, so you know there's that.
Well, you know,
Kevin?
I'm not even going to go into that, but so yeah, just really quickly, I'm going to bring in Godless Scummer. Godless Scummer, what did you think of tonight?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I was intending today of not having anything to drink. I fucking need I need several beers, I think, after that shit show.
Well, there goes your
Horrible
plan.
idea.
Yeah, that
You're
was
not having any drink. Oh. Oh.
yeah. Right, where to begin with that? I'll give G a bit of credit for not losing his cool, because I do not think I could have done that in his position. So I'll give him credit there. The thing is, I think in a way he was doing an awful lot to try and understand her position. I understand that, but I feel there was more pushback needed.
Yep.
On a lot of what she said there, and a lot of it to me was asking questions. She proselytized, and
she didn't know how to debate. That's basically what.
Oh
what
no!
it comes down
I
to.
mean, I don't. I think they themselves say that they're trying to have this more as a conversation and a debate as such. But I do think it was. I get the fact that he's trying to act. He's trying to be not misrepresent her position at all, and so on. But she there needed to be a bit more pushback, I feel. And this is I mean, it's not this. None of this is a personal knock on GE. I've actually never had a crossword with him. But I felt he probably could have pushed back on her a lot more than he did. And I feel he should have done. It was getting rather difficult. I was listening to it on my phone. It was getting really difficult not to, especially what she said about like, dead babies. And I was just like, how I didn't throw my fucking phone across the room at that point. I don't know.
I think we were in the same spot.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm gonna tell. I certainly wouldn't presume to tell Cats and Creaky how to run their channel. All I'll say is, me personally, I'd never platform somebody like that. That's just me. And I don't necessarily have an issue with them being platformed so much. It's just, I feel she was given an easy ride tonight. And that was just my take on it, coming away from that. So.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because I've seen her on national television doing interviews, and where people have challenged her on things and she will laugh at them. Like, so I mean, you'd probably know a little bit more about the Westboro Baptist Church than I do, because I kind of I know of them and I know what they've done in terms of the shock and awe, but in terms of how they run their church, it just seems to me it's not a cult, it's fucking worse than a cult.
I think there's elements of it that are definitely cult-like, and there's other things. I mean, I don't know if anyone listened to do you know, because two of her daughters left. I don't know if anyone ever listened to the Joe Rogan interview with Megan Phelps Roper.
I did. And have you seen the TED Talk she did?
Yes, that was amazing. I mean, that's amazing as well, because I remember watching one of the old Louis Theroux ones, and she was very young and just absolutely indoctrinated and saying just as awful things as her mother said, and to see where she's come to, but I do not hold that same hope out for Shirley Phelps Roper. I think she's beyond the point of help, to be honest. And that and this is the scary thing listening to her tonight. She is clearly not stupid. She is not a stupid woman. She is incredibly indoctrinated with those beliefs, and I honestly, I do not see a way out for her. I haven't really delved in. I'm no expert on the Westboro Baptist Church. I've sort of read a few things about them here and now. I do believe there was a little bit of a when the original pastor Fred Phelps died, that it was made pretty clear to Shirley Phelps Roper that she would not be leading that church. And I think there's some sort of panel, and it was over the fact that they weren't going to have a woman running their church. And to be fair, I think she pretty much did back down. She wasn't going to fight that fight, because she'd probably accept what Scripture says on that, or what their interpretation on Scripture says on that. So.
Fun fact, I was looking up some information about the Phelps family and WBC before we went live, and one of the things they mentioned was Fred Phelps's work ethic. Did you know that Fred Phelps was so busy beating his children and hating everyone that his children made the vast majority of the house income?
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
Yeah, I mean,
something I read that he gave all the kids like little jobs of like selling candy door to door kind of thing, and in the end they ended up bringing in most of the household's income.
That does not surprise me at all.
By selling candy?
By selling candy, yeah.
That's some business sense there.
I don't think it was just about that, because a lot of these fundamentalist church types, they will have their children, and it's little more than child labor, but they will have their children writing out signs. I've seen this happen. They will have their children writing out hate signs. They will have their children handing out leaflets at churches. So over here, we went through, over the last 5-6 years, we have had 2 major referenda, both of which were successful, and both of which were against what Catholic Church teaching was about. So we had the marriage equality referendum, and then 2 years later we had the repeal the eighth referendum, which was a constitutional ban on abortion. So those 2 were literally the final straws of Catholicism, really, in Ireland. And both passed. Well, I remember people with their children, I mean 3-year-old, 4-year-old children, outside of supermarkets and shops and on street corners, handing out leaflets saying why a same-sex couple or why a trans person could not and should not and must not be allowed to be parents, which obviously upset me a lot. Being a bisexual woman, it really annoyed me. So, and we have some pansexuals, we have some trans in the chat. So for me, people like the Westboro Baptist Church and others like them, it is literally like child labor. They get their children to do all of the work to indoctrinate them. So it's not just as simple as going to Sunday school or home tutoring. they literally get them in as soon as they can, painting signs and handing out leaflets about why this is wrong and this should be hated. It's disgusting.
You know,
It
funny you
absolutely
bring that
is.
up, the children making the signs and everything. I remember the first time I heard about the Westboro Baptist Church was when a lot of people did during the Matthew Shepard incident in Wyoming. A young gay man named Matthew Shepard was beat nearly to death and left to die in a field, and the WBC came and protested his funeral. And one of the saddest things I had ever seen, and continues to be one of the saddest things I've ever seen in my entire life, was a child holding a sign that said "God hates fags." And I looked at it and I thought, that child is so young that he doesn't know what either of those things are.
And it
Yeah.
gives a whole other meaning to get them while they're young.
Mm-hmm.
This
You won't-
indoctrination is something that is just corrupting minds, and it's also removing the way people think, and that's the bigger problem, actually. They don't know they're wrong, or they do know and don't care. So either way, it's...
Well, the other thing
It's just
about it,
disgusting.
growing up as well, you know, I grew up, so as I said, I grew up in a Catholic background, and where's Wally is in the chat? Hey, where's Wally? So I do actually owe you a video.
Yeah.
I've been too busy to send it to you. I am sorry. So I grew up in a Catholic community, and next door, literally right next door to me, we had people of the Protestant faith. And I remember, because they were some of my best friends. There was 3 boys, and they were pretty much my best friends. And every time there was an argument, I know why you're here. I'm sorry. I'm delayed. I will get it to you. But every time there was anything happen in the estate, it was all the Proddies' fault. You know, it's the Protestants. It's the Protestants. And I actually had to ask some of the kids one day, me being a child myself, I was like, well, what's the difference between us and them? Because other than believing that Mary was a virgin, I can't see any. Now, I know the history of the Protestant church now, but I was about 6 or 7, and these kids were, what, a year or 2 younger than me?
Well, my
And,
first
you know,
experience of it in Scotland was I used to hang about with the 2 boys stayed across the road from us. They were like my best pals. They hung about, went to the same fucking nurseries and that, and just hung about, played and what have you. And then when we were 5, we went to school, and we get the school bus. And we stood at one. I went round to the corner and stood at the bus where the bus stopped, and I seen the 2 boys at the other side of the road, in a different school uniform, waiting in a different bus.
Yeah.
And I
Still like
didn't
that.
know what the hell was going on, because up until that point, my life there hadn't been any kind of religion or anything in it.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. When it comes to people like the Westboro Baptists, here's the sociology of it. About 200 years ago, 250 years ago, we had Pope Pius X, I think it was. I think it was Pope Pius anyway. And in and around that time, we had the Industrial Revolution. So the Industrial Revolution came along and said, you know, we need the next generation of workers for as little as possible. We don't want to be paying for children to be educated, but we need an educated workforce because they need to be able to run the machines. That's what industrialization was about.
Aye.
So that's where the school systems, the public school systems, start popping up all over Europe. Because capitalism as a system, now I'm not going to say being for or against capitalism. This is just fact. Me as a sociologist, this is what I do. When capitalism was in its infancy, it went to the likes of the Catholic Church and other churches to say, how are we going to reinforce this? How are we going to get people, you know, and the other thing was land. Everything, especially in Ireland, everything was tied to land. And you could only have land after, I think it was, what, 1750 or 1760, if you were of the male lineage and it was legitimate. So after about the 1870s, when industrialization had really kicked off, you then had the situation where okay, we need the next generation of workers. They need to be educated. We don't want to pay for it, so school systems were set up. And then it was the reintroduction of the nuclear family. So you had the mother, the father, and the legitimate children under the head of the church. And that's where this came about. So homosexuality was banned, abortion was banned, any sex outside of marriage. This is where that all came from. It wasn't until about 1860, 1870s that you actually saw the move to outlaw and ban these things. And so when she talks about, when Shirley talks about fundamentalist Christians and what it's like to be a real Christian, it all stems back to Pope Pius X. I think it was the 10th, but Pope Pius, who really pushed for this stricter, no nonsense, no tolerance for anything outside of nuclear family. And it's just interesting to see how it's interwoven itself into the extremist Christians today, because it started in Europe 250 years ago. So that's just a brief, update on the sociology of Christianity.
I'd be curious to know how that kind of dovetails with the American history, which with the first European settlers basically being religious, what's the way to put it, outcasts, people that were being persecuted for their beliefs, and so their solution was to go to the colonies where they could do their thing undisturbed.
Well,
I mean,
you can tie that in a wee bit with hillbillies, because it was round about the time of the colonisation with Virginia and what have you, where obviously the hillbillies are from. The reason being that they took land at the top of hills. The second reason being that they were staunch Protestants and were following King William, or King Billy, as he's more affectionately known in some quarters. But that's the Billy in question, and the hillbillies in question. That's the Billy they're referencing.
Mm-hmm.
So that explains at least some of it.
I love how you say in some quarters.
I think that you find a lot of this brand of narrow mind, kind of rough, harsh moralism. I think that there's more of that, or maybe I don't know. I think there's more of that in American culture than there is in Europe, and I wonder to what extent that sort of historical incident or played, caused it to work out that way.
Well, again, I think a lot of it comes back to landowning, because landowning, even in the colonies, and if you look at the development of Ireland, we had 14 kids and 13 kids for a reason, because we didn't expect them to live past 5. But everything then became the only way to own land, and it was in the colonies. It was also in Ireland. Ireland was a colony at that time. The only way you could own land was to be a legitimate son,
Right.
or to be basically sold off as a woman for more land for your family, and have that kind of interlocking thing. So that was a big part of it. It was the ability to own land.
I suppose in the colonies there was, I think it was Maryland. You couldn't be the governor of there unless you were Roman Catholic up until whenever it was, 18 canteen.
Oh, exactly. I had a bloop.
It's mental. The religion is historically, it's been divisive on all sides.
It has been, and we have hello. We have Elia Moon coming in. Elia, you were saying Real quick, Elia was saying that she has first-hand experience with dealing with Westboro Baptist Church. So, how are you, Elia? Welcome. You're muted, love.
Oops, I was double muted.
Hi.
Sorry. Yeah, so the Westboro Baptist Church travels. They don't stick just to their area. They especially like to travel around and picket soldiers who have passed away. They especially like to go travel and picket their funerals, basically saying that their death is from God because of gays and the LGBTQ community. So a few years ago, here locally to me, they were coming into town to picket a funeral. They had actually put it on their website for their members where they were going to be and whose funeral. And there was a local biker organization that decided to band together and called for people to counter protest. And I went and counter protested with them. And we built a wall. Our community built a wall together and stood between the actual graveside and Westboro Baptist Church to try to block them from the family who was grieving the loss.
Well, yeah,
So-
I mean, this
I'll
was my
say
point.
something on that. So,
Yeah, go on.
oh, I was just going to say to Iliad, I don't know if it was Iliad that brought it up in the chat actually, but someone did bring it up in the live chat on that show, that when she was saying about the fact that, look, we always hold these things down the road and over on the fact, someone brought this up. It says it's because of counter protests, and yeah, numerous times bikers were mentioned.
Yes.
It's why they haven't been able to get near to them. You know, they would be doing it right in front of people if there was not people out there banding together,
Correct.
stopping them going near. I mean, I suppose in the UK, I became aware of them in like the early to mid 2000s, probably the Louis Theroux documentaries on them. I mean, we've got to remember what we're talking about is a tiny little sect that is punched way above its weight in the amount of attention it manages to get through using shock tactics. But you know,
they're called the Patriot Guard Riders. That's the name of the biker group, and they are an organization based here in the U.S. whose members were formed in 2005 to shelter and protect against deceased families. The families of the deceased from specifically Westboro Baptist Church. So you know,
So
you can read up on it.
Question on that, Eli.
Yeah.
I have a quick question on that. She mentioned that they were never in the way. They were always out of the way, out of sight, kind of out of mind, and in the background. They were never right up with the families. They were never intrusive. How accurate is that information? Because I feel it's bollocks.
It is. They were not like at the graveside. No, they weren't standing with the family at the graveside. But if you can imagine a graveyard where you have, depending on the size of the graveyard, you know, there's roads. Some of them are two-way, some of them are one-way if they're a smaller graveyard, right? So if you can imagine here locally at our memorial for our past soldiers, right? It is actually a two-way road going through that specific graveyard. So where they had the burial plot for this family in one specific area, they stood across that two-lane road where, you know, they stood across the street from the grass area where the plot was, and we lined up along the other side, blocking the family from being able to see them. But they were not quiet. They had bullhorns, and they had oh my gosh, what are those things that you use that you press and it makes your voice louder? I can't think of the name of it.
Megaphone.
Megaphone.
Megaphone. They had those. And so were they at the graveside with the family? No. Were they quiet and not noticeable? No, that's a lie. Yes.
I thought so. That's disgusting.
Well,
There's
I mean, these are
stories
grieving families.
there's stories about it all over the internet. All you have to do is look. There's another one here. Biker gang offers a protective wall against Westboro Baptist at another funeral. They literally were traveling around to the funeral, to different funerals of soldiers, of our military men and women who had lost their lives, to picket. And so there's a couple of I really love the fact that the Patriot Guard riders, they joined together in 2005 and they started traveling and watching the website and traveling with them to do that protective wall for the family, so the family at least didn't have to see the signs and see it.
I was going to say something. I remember reading an article, but this was probably at least 10 years ago, maybe more. But at one time when they were doing these picketing of soldiers' funerals, at one time, one group that actually came out against them was the Ku Klux Klan. And I think it says something about where the Westboro Baptist Church is. When one of the most vile organizations in the history of the United States has a better position, I think you need to look at your priorities seriously.
So, yeah, to give you some information too. So, the signs that they would hold would say, "Thank God for dead soldiers." Your dead soldier was a FAG, which I will not say out loud. God hates your feelings. God curses the troops. Those are just some of the signs I can remember offhand from seeing that day. I'm sure that there's other signs that, one was thank God for IEDs.
Yeah.
That was another sign that they had. So, all I can tell you for sure is that do they go up to the family and stand graveside with them? No. Are they quiet and in the background protesting away from the family? No. And yes, they're yelling what they're not just preaching and talking, they are yelling what they're saying.
They're being disrespectful regardless of how close they are.
Correct.
Hello, by the way.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, I just came back. Let me just do a head count here. Ilya just came in, and Clara. I have no idea how to say that last name.
Microraptor.
This is
Microraptor. That's easier. Hey, Microraptor. let me just try it. Wait a minute. Nyanfal. Fjal? Fjol. I don't know.
No. But Microraptor.
I might have started a war here, guys.
Yeah.
I have a question for Crafty, but others might have something they could add to it as well. It seems to me like I'm wondering what enables these kinds of groups to perpetuate themselves. And what little I've seen of some of them around the United States is that we were talking about the children and being the way the children in these families are abused. It seems like, it looks to me, and tell me if I'm right or wrong about this, but it seems like a lot of these groups depend for their quote new members, you might call them, on their own children, and that they're basically family organizations. And I wonder how successful they are at bringing in people from outside and how much they're relying on trying to basically make prisoners of their children and hope their children perpetuate the nonsense into the next
That's how it seems to me too.
That's very interesting, because this is where I think they're a bit different from a lot of sort of sects. They do not seem to be out like really actively recruiting.
No.
And certainly, if you heard the stories of her two daughters, it's Megan and sorry, I forget the name of the other daughter that left. That will come back to me in a minute. but they were, it wasn't like they tried to trap them in there and keep them. They're almost like, "Good, be gone with you, and we won't." But of course, we'll just totally cut them off.
It's really disgusting. Yeah, if you look at some of the website stuff, it's really disgusting how young they start indoctrinating.
Yeah, but it is mainly the Phelps. It is like mainly the Phelps family and a couple of other families, really in that church. It's not a big, I mean, what I think probably what have they got? Maybe 50 members, and it's not like they're really out there trying to recruit people to their flock. It seems like it's one of the Louis Theroux documentaries. There was some kid who wanted to come in, and it was like he had to sort of sit at the back for a long time. It was like they weren't going to let this guy, this kid in unless they were absolutely sure he was serious. So in that respect, they are a little bit different than a lot of what you would quote unquote cults. But yeah, this is, like I said earlier, though, when you think about it, what have they got? Maybe 50 members in total. Yet they've managed, really,
they are 70.
Yeah, okay. So,
yeah. But around there.
Yeah, we are, like I said earlier, we are talking about a really tiny organization that has managed to grab an awful lot of headlines. And as we said, they travel around a lot. They've traveled outside the United States. I mean, I don't know if Tatty might remember this, but there was in a helicopter crashed in Scotland. I don't know if Tatty remembers this.
I remember it.
Now, I don't know whether they actually did, but they certainly made noises about coming over to Scotland to picket that funeral.
They certainly did
or not.
Oh, they certainly did. There's no way in hell that they would have got away with that. No way in hell they would have got away with that. There would be.
I don't think they were even allowed in.
No.
I don't think they were even allowed to come over.
No, because if they had, there'd have been more funerals.
I mean, I sort of made the joke in the chat, like, you put in that name of that Slayer song, God Hates Us All.
Oh, hell yeah. And what a tune.
But they threatened, do you remember the guitarist from Slayer, Jeff Hanneman? They threatened to picket his funeral. Whether they did or not, I'm not certain.
I think they did.
I'm sure he would have loved that. That would have been right up his fucking street, man.
I'm pretty sure they did, from across the street from the cemetery, because it was a private cemetery, and they knew if they'd stepped foot, or it was somewhere nearby, because if they stepped foot on the grounds owned by the cemetery, they would have been arrested.
I mean, is part of the problem, and again, I want to make very clear, this is not a jibe at Cats and Creaky for platforming them today, but at all, because it's up to them who they platform, and I don't necessarily have the issue with platforming them with the platform, but the fact that the media has because of their chapters, have we made them into a bigger monster than they really are because we've given them attention? Does anyone feel? I mean,
okay, well, because this comes up a lot, and it's the same with Flat Earth. It's the same with any extremism.
Yeah.
Is it worth platforming them and trying to tear them down, or trying to point and laugh? And that's literally what our community is built on, really.
Yeah.
And here's my problem. If you don't, they're going to spew their hatred. Now, the Westboro Baptist Church are not a recruitment organization, as has been said. They're not here to convert anyone. They're just here to spread their bullshit, or just to spew their venom. The problem with that is, if one person listens to her tonight, and she's sounding very rational and very calm, and yet a little bit out there, if one person takes her seriously at all without being challenged, that's one person too many.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
And that's my issue with people like that. That if they are not challenged, if they are given free rein, and this is again, like Creaky and Cats, I love them both.
So, yeah.
But what frustrated me was there wasn't that much of a kickback. There wasn't. I know they didn't want dumpster fire, and I understand. I'm one of the main mods on that channel. I get what they're trying to do with that channel, and it's refreshing to see. It's throw it out there and make up your own mind. But these are the people and the types of people that can destroy lives, and when they're not challenged, it's dangerous. That's my issue with it.
Yeah, I appreciate that Cats and Quickie want to have that attitude of, okay, we want it to be polite and we don't want it to be a dumpster fire. But then maybe don't invite Westboro Baptist Church, because it's going to need that attitude.
I don't know, invite the Westboro Baptist Church, but have someone strong there that's actually going to hold their feet to the fire, or to make them look so ridiculous and so unhinged that nobody is going to latch on to a word that they're going to say.
Red would have been perfect. Reds would have been
fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Genetically modified skeptic would have been great. He's very polite.
Yeah.
He's very calm. He would have been great. Math Pig would have been brilliant.
Oh, Math Pig would have ripped him. Math Pig would have ripped him a new one.
Fucking who else? There's so many people that would have been fantastic. Now, I'm not saying that Godless Engineer was bad. He wasn't. But my problem with the debate or the discussion today was, we know what they are. We know who they are. We know what they support and what they try to do. Do not try to understand insanity, because you will end up looking insane. And you will end up annoying more of your fan base than if you actually said, no, I know what you're going to do. I know what you're trying to do here. And you're not going to get that. You're not going to be that way.
Wait a minute. So the thing with Godless Engineer is his style is kind of like taking him serious and then ripping him there apart, and that's kind of it's a style that works sometimes, but in this case, someone needed to slam a fist on the table with some of the disgusting crap that she was spewing.
Yeah,
and I mean, Creaky and Cats are, I'm guessing, too nice. I don't know. They need to put up some fists sometimes and bite a little bit more.
I really would have liked to have heard also where they got the information that it was okay to picket funerals. That's what made them initially famous. It was the fact that in 2006, they actually picketed Matthew Snodder's funeral, who was a Marine killed in Iraq. And he was also gay. And so they were sued for that. And actually, the jury awarded the family $11 million in damages. But then in 2011, it was overturned. And that's when they really picked up steam on what they were doing and started to actually plan out funerals they were going to go to. So they also did a lot of picketing at Jewish institutions around the country. They didn't even care, who it was at that point. They were going after anyone and everyone. But in 2006, Nebraska law, because of what happened with Matthew Snodder, banned protest at funerals within 300 feet of the service. But that's one state that banned it within 300 feet, right? So, they went back in 2016 and even tried to sue Nebraska for that. And then in 2017, the U.S. Supreme Court declined it. So Nebraska still has that hold, but they've been trying to overturn where they've had charges pressed against them or even new laws being put in place because of them. They're trying to go back and get those overturned. So, yeah, I mean, there's still a battle going on with Missouri right now in them.
I'm just seeing there, AT2 Productions is actually in the chat.
Hey, Jared.
Jared, if you want to come in, we're talking about the Westboro Baptist Church because they were on Agree to Disagree tonight.
There has to be one thing about that. When he comes in, He has to say, hang on.
Well,
Hang on.
so, and the reason why one of the reasons why I noticed him, Safety K said it would have been interesting to see MT Tune. MT Tune would not be killing her with kindness. He was actually punching his TV screen nearly. Or AT2 Productions against her. Jared can be extremely mean to people. Jared is only mean to people when they have exhausted the line of decency. Because I've seen.
Ask him about grandstanding.
30 seconds from that.
Well, thank you for inviting me on, but I am still working, so I need to finish some work. But thank you for inviting me on to share what my experience was. Definitely a good, definitely a good conversation. And, I think the more we, less platform as the word, but the more we highlight these situations, the better we can get ahead of these in the future. So,
Yeah.
And I think it was worth it because a lot of people that were watching at the time were so, I don't know, there was so much frustration, I think is the best word, watching that. There was so much frustration, and we needed somewhere to actually get that frustration out. So I poked Patty a little bit and said, let's do a stream.
Absolutely, yeah. And this church and what they do, I mean, they protested the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. They protested
scum.
Yes, they have protested the 9/11 monuments at certain times. They travel around and they protest specifically with hate, and they can say whatever they want to say on any platform they want to say it on, but I've seen them up close and personal in their picket signs. There is no love, there is no care, there is nothing, quote unquote, in my opinion, godly about what they're doing. It's just hate.
I think in a certain, I think he almost got that out of her tonight. For her to admit that, again, could be where I think she was let off the hook a little bit. It's talking about this like God's perfect hatred, and it's like, but then again, it's always the whole, no, I don't hate anyone. We're just saying that God does. It's bullshit, and that's what I feel she needed to be. She and her group need to be called out on.
Yep. Well, I'll talk to you guys later. Continue the great conversation. Love to you all. Bye.
Bye, Ilya.
Bye.
Hi, Ilya. See you soon.
Godless brought up a point that we kind of strayed from, but I thought it was an interesting idea, and it's one that might be worth thinking about a little bit. And that's, to what extent does a group like hers succeed because we allow them to have our attention? It's like, what did they used to say during the Vietnam War? A child asked his parents, "What if they gave a war and nobody came?" It's the same idea. What if they protested and none of the TV cameras showed up to broadcast their protest across the United States? The strength, the volume of their voices depends on media being there to record it.
But that's the problem. It doesn't, because in a way it does. Their whole aim is to create unease for people that they don't like. So the point of it is, if the cameras didn't show up for them picketing a funeral, would they stop picketing funerals? Unfortunately, with an extremist group like the Westboro Baptist Church, it would not have any difference, because they still go to protest funerals whether there's cameras there or not. And the reason why it's kind of important to document it is to actually see what they're doing. And yes, giving them attention is a problem, but getting it out there that there's people like this in the world is also important.
Yeah, and letting people who are in situations similar to, like, who has those kinds of people around them, letting them hear that, okay, there are people around who dislikes these sort of attitudes. Who, like, in chat during the debate, like, there were a few people who wrote who agreed with Shirley, but most of the people in the chat disagreed with her. And there might have been someone watching who felt empowered by hearing, seeing those voices, and it would have been good to hear that from the Jarle's engineer. I like him, so I don't want to be too mean towards him, but yeah, it could have been stronger there. And I think that's important for people to hear, that there are people standing up against this hatred.
Yeah.
Thank you. Crafty
Tila,
Tila, thank you for inviting
gonna
me.
jump up.
I think I'm gonna need to go now, but thank you for
Yeah, same
inviting
here.
me to join you this evening. It was really nice to be here. I'm happy
Thank
to
you
be a
very
part of
much.
this.
Nice meeting you.
And
Cheers for jumping
Radical, I
on,
know
man.
you have. I know you have a stream of your own, so best of luck tonight with that.
Yeah, thanks.
Flat Earth
I try to
Review.
not overlap it, but I have been postponing it a bit. So this was an important stream. So thanks for having me on, and I have to dip now.
It does mean a lot that you came on. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
no worries.
Bye, Radical. Bye,
Flat Earth
Tony.
Review. Flat Earth
Bye.
Review.
Bye.
I know, Tony,
Bye.
that you were so frustrated
Gotcha,
watching
gotcha,
that.
mate.
And I'm glad that I could give you a chance to come on and just ask those questions and vent a little bit, because I think we all needed that little bit of a vent.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good night, everybody.
So, yeah, thank you so much.
Good night,
for
my
coming
man.
on. Good
Take it
night.
easy.
Good night.
Good night.
In the stream, Brandon Steele and Al is going to bed as well. So good night, man.
Night, Rainless, man.
Yeah. So other
Good night, Venus.
than Westboro, because there's other groups other than Westboro that are as bad, but there's something that I don't get about Westboro, and that is how, like, I can get it on one sense, how they're able to get across their ideas on camera so calmly, like what was tonight, and yet 9 times out of 10 it is full blown aggression. Do you know what I mean?
I think they're very well practiced in this.
I was just going to say it's practice.
And
Yeah.
I mean, and this is what I was a little worried about this going in, because as I said, Shirley Phelps Roper is not a dumb person. Her ideas
She's
and
a
her
lawyer,
ideology
isn't she?
is yeah. Her ideas are absolutely, her ideology is absolutely toxic. But you listen to a lot of them, especially you listen to the ones who left. None of these people are idiots. They've been, their religious ideology is horrible. But I tell you, horrible is not even a strong enough word. There isn't one. But and this is one of the things I do think. I was a little worried going in. I don't know if G was guilty of this or not. I'd like to think he wasn't, but I do think if you're going to platform these people, don't underestimate them.
Yeah.
Do not go in there assuming that they're idiots or whatever. She's clearly not. Her ideas are toxic, but you definitely cannot underestimate these people. And as I said, and again, I don't want to bang on GE. I like GE. I always gotten along with him and never had a cross word with the guy. But I feel he was being way too charitable with her. And I've seen it a couple of times with him where I think he's been way too charitable with people that you don't need to give charity to. I mean, you don't need to give charity to Kent Hovind. You don't need to give charity to somebody like G-Man, And I think that's kind of sometimes he's if from what I've seen, sometimes that's why I don't think he's handled some of these discussions as well as perhaps he could have done. It's just, and I said that's just and I'm going to hold my hand up. I'm not saying I could do any better, because I've never done debates. But if I had a criticism of him when he has these conversations, I've even seen this in one or two flat earthers. I mean, I think he gave super rats way too easy of a ride. Some of these people, you don't need to give them that much charity, and someone like Shirley Phelps Roper, I do not think deserves any principle of charity whatsoever. And I'm not saying make it a dumpster fire. I mean, of course not. But when she said
there
like
are
things
ways.
about
There are ways of challenging her without making it a dumpster fire. And you could see, as I said, like she did the shock and awe tactic. She went for the most outrageous sign first and then changed it, and then she starts slamming her fist and raising her voice a little bit but not shouting, where she would actually be moderated. She was very controlled in that way. That's what I find scary. That's what I find with people like that. That's what you need to watch out for, because it's understandable. You can revile someone that loses their temper and absolutely goes batshit crazy. That's fine. But when they're controlled like that, and it's controlled aggression, like what we've seen tonight, that's even scarier, because they are in the frame of mind. They are in a calm frame of mind. They know exactly what they're doing. They have complete control. That's what's scary. That's what terrifies me about people like her.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like the total antithesis of somebody like, say, I don't know, G-Man or a Nathan Thompson or something like that, who just comes in and spouts this, but can get triggered. I mean, anyone who's ever seen G-Man debate, he just has meltdowns, or he just goes on absolute meltdowns all the time and shouts over. That's his approach. That's what I found very unnerving about somebody like Shirley Phelps Roper. She is very well controlled. She's very cool and calm. I think there was elements at times where you saw it out of her today, but
she reined it in.
In a way, she knows when to rein it in. Like, don't want to keep repeating myself. Don't underestimate people like that.
Micro, what was it like for you watching that? Because like me, you're pansexual, I'm bisexual, and to hear her openly say, our website is God hates fags. How did you feel watching that bullshit?
And I know them from before. Like, I obviously heard about them before, and I knew what the debate was. I knew what was going to happen. So it was infuriating, of course, but it was also like, I know that they're a small group. I know that it's a very extremist group. It was like, it was sort of, I felt like even if I felt angry and stuff, I felt like I could distance myself enough to, I wrote in the chat too, and wrote my feelings on it, and I quoted the Bible quotes that I know contradict what she said, and I my general opinions on her attitude. So I got to vent a little in chat there. So it was weird, and it's infuriating to hear it. But, but like everyone else, I think Godless Engineer could have been a little more. He shouldn't have been as nice as he was, and I feel like maybe some people are like, they have a hard time having that anger, having that fire that a person like her might need in a debate.
Well, Clive Wells in the chat says he has a good point there. I think there was a concern debate should not decay into a shouting match or a rage quit. So to try it out with GE may have been a good idea rather than someone more confrontational. What do people think about that?
Yeah, maybe.
Quite possibly. I mean, as I said, one thing I will give GE credit on is keeping his cool in that. I'll give him credit for that, because I think in that position, I do not think I could have kept my cool, would have heard all the things she was saying. You know, so in that respect, that's one thing I will actually give him some credit for. But at the same time, yeah, too much charity, I think, was being given there. You know, I think it was almost, I think it was too much emphasis on trying to actually understand what her position is and still man her position, and then not enough actual pushback on what that position actually was. And I understand he was trying to keep it a lot more on like their actual theology and stuff. I see where he was kind of going in that, but when she says some of these just disgusting, outrageous things, she shouldn't be let off the hook for it either. And you know, that's what I kind of feel happened a bit there tonight.
I know, Pip, you're calm now.
Yeah.
You weren't in the chat.
No.
What was going through your head? What was going through your head when you were watching it?
What was going through my head was, she's a vile human being, first of all. Yeah. And godless engineer, grow up here and ask some decent questions. He let her off far too easily. She didn't answer one of his questions straight on. It was just quotes from the Bible, quotes from the Bible.
Kat's kind of jumped in quite a lot, which is not like him.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on that?
He shouldn't have. You just left him to it.
You think so?
Yeah. Yeah, it was between those two, and whether they talked over each other, it might have stirred some stuff out. We might have got something worse out of her, if there could be anything worse out of her after the child situation. No, they should just. Katz doesn't normally jump in conversations, does he?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't. That's what I found really odd.
Do you think he was? And I'm just speculating, but do you think he was just being absolutely extra careful not to let this descend into a dumpster fire?
Yes, I think so.
And yeah, I mean, because. And I mean, like I said, I don't know that a dumpster fire tonight would have served any better purpose. It's like, because I think like one of the big criticisms I have of again, guy I get on with well fine personally, but a big criticism of James on modern day debate, that he doesn't jump in enough when he should do.
Yeah, it's trying to find that balance, isn't it?
And I think it is difficult. I think it is very difficult. Trying to find that right balance between, let's not let this descend into an absolute, shit show dumpster fire. But
no, you didn't want that. But you could have let it go. This case
tonight, there was times I felt it could have been let go, and hopefully,
and we would have seen the real Shirley. Nobody saw the real Shirley.
And maybe he might have given a bit of a chance to GE to maybe come back at her a little bit. I don't know.
Exactly.
But as I said, and as I said, I think to all parties involved in that, hopefully it's going to be a learning, because it is Katz and Creaky. They only sort of started this recently. It's a learning process for them as well. Yeah. And I understand that they are just totally not trying to go the route of some of these other quote unquote debate channels that are, just want the fucking dumpster fires. Okay, the dumpster fires can be entertaining at times. They absolutely can be, but I mean, like I said, I feel sometimes like James on modern day debate, he quite often allows those things to descend into a dumpster fire. I think even back on a non sequitur show, I think Kyle in particular, sometimes seems to prod these things in the direction of a dumpster fire. So there is, I think it's a learning. I think it's a learning curve for all involved. I think there. And I think for any of us, if we're thinking of doing anything like that on our channels or whatever, there's probably a lot we can all take out of that tonight and think, okay, if we do something like this, here's what we perhaps we can and can't do.
Here's an interesting thing for you. What I found was there was a few jibes, and I noticed them. Obviously, I'm read up on multiple theologies. I'm read up on 21st century lingo, but there was a few jibes from Godless Engineer where he was literally just trying to kind of make her seem as extreme and as ridiculous as she was, and sometimes it worked. A lot of times it didn't. It just went way over her head, and I was literally concentrating on the chat. It went way over the heads of a lot of people in the chat as well. I caught what he was saying, and that's one of the reasons. And Clive Wells said, yeah, that's one of the reasons why Katz jumped in to kind of clarify. But there's a few things that a few little jibes that he was doing that's more in that kind of in his style of debating or discussing things. Again, like you said earlier, God discovered, sometimes it works. For him making his videos, it works. But when you're in a live setting like that and you're reacting to what they're saying, it's not always pulled off, because you're relying on them and the audience to understand where you're coming from with your question. And a lot of people that were in the chat today wouldn't have watched him before.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. I do think GE is slightly getting better at this. I do think, but I still think, again, it was too much charity. Again, I feel like I keep saying this, but that was my issue coming, with that a little bit. And I don't know. I don't know what people think then. We might touch on it earlier. If it's not GE, who should have had that conversation with her tonight? What do people think? Who's absolutely the ideal person?
The bigger question is what did people want to get out of tonight? That's the big question, because you can have a chat with Westboro, but what is it that people were trying to get out of tonight? Other than poke fun? Because I know, Katz and Creaky are both kind of point and laugh channels. Katz more the science part. But it's what were people going into it? What made you actually watch the debate? Everyone on the panel, what made you watch the debate? I wanted to see what Godless Engineer, how he would react to her and to what she says, because I've heard what she has to say. I know what she's about. And I found it interesting to see his kind of subdued response. Speak Truth says she should have debated Team Skeptic. She wouldn't do it, and even with that, it would just be a dumpster fire. And while yes, that's fun sometimes, on a debate show, like, agree to disagree, that's not what they're going for. So what was it that people were tuning in for? What did you want to see?
I want to see Katz and Creaky's reaction to what I thought she was going to be.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I when I tuned into that tonight, I didn't know it was going to be GE in her. I thought. I wasn't even sure who it was going to be from the Westboro Baptist Church. I was very surprised when it was Shirley Phelps Roper. To be honest, I thought it was going to be someone less prominent, or should we say, less well known. I was very surprised when it was her, because
my first reaction was go with her.
Yeah, this is the thing is, even though she's not like the leader, she's definitely the best known member of that church. She's the one. If people say name a member of the Westboro Baptist Church, they're probably going to say the previously the one who died, Fred Phelps, and then they're going to say her.
She does all the interviews.
For some reason, I didn't know why. I thought somehow it was going to be a back and forth, maybe of her and Katz or something. I didn't know what was going. I didn't even know it was going to be GE. So,
Clyde Wells said Aaron Ra would have been an interesting debate.
Yeah.
Oof. It only lasted 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Nope.
Depends on.
I think Red Rhetoric would have been good.
Yeah. Depends on what it is. Depends on what it is. Sometimes with Aaron, and it's the knocking him. I think a lot of the there's certain elements of like counter apologetics where Aaron is really good, and there's other things where I think he's not as good at. Like, I mean, if you want
strengths and weaknesses, man, definitely.
I mean, without doubt,
definitely.
if you want to tear down a young Earth creationist, Aaron Ra is absolutely the best person to you know, like
Yeah.
you want to tear someone like Kent Hope
if I lodge in the
down,
challenge.
Yeah. I mean, I still think one of his tear down of Kent Hovind is absolutely epic. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Sensible.
Sorry, guys. Mr. Sensible had a stream tonight, or was supposed to have a stream, and I think there was issues with connection. So, Mr. S, I'm going to send you a link to come in if you want to come in and have a chat. But yes, he's sent people over to me, and it's weird because I'm usually first person in. Well, one of the first people. Colin is usually the first. I'm usually one of the first people in his streams tonight, but I just thought this discussion had to be had. You know, there was so much frustration about what we saw, and I seen it in the chat because I was literally concentrating solely on the chat. So I did feel that this had to go ahead. We needed somewhere to vent and to explain what was going on. So, Mr. Sensible, I've just sent you a link on Discord if you do want to come in. And just to catch up, everyone saying, Mr. S sent us over, yay. But I'm sorry, I just want to go back because I seen something there. Little Wolf, AK82, said, I just like debates and seeing both sides and what they think. And this is why I take an issue with not challenging these people, because you know people come across random things on YouTube. It's just a fact, and if you don't have someone there, to challenge these people, then it's a lot easier to accept even a minority of what they're saying. And that's where people start to get duped.
Yeah.
And Mr. Sensible says, it's a sensible invasion. Yay. Best to fling poo at them, exactly, the butthole. Where's Matthew? Where's Matthew?
He's floating around somewhere. I know.
Sorry, just the fact that he said best to fling poo at them, I'm just thought of Matthew. Matt,
exactly.
that Matt has an alternative name for the plot hole, which is the butthole. I love it. I love it.
There we go. From about flinging poo. Well, wouldn't it be funny if we'd had Jut Monk up against her?
Yeah, where the hell is Jut Monk these days? In fairness, he is working, but still, that would be fun.
That I mean, yeah, that was a joke, obviously, but that would have been so funny. That would be Jut Monk against her.
You know, half of me wishes that Jut Monk was watching that tonight and was here with us just to rip into what was it. But again, so for people that came over for Mr. Sensibles, and hello and welcome and thank you for coming over. For people that have just joined us, we're discussing the agree to disagree debate or discussion tonight between Godless Engineer and the Westboro Baptist Church, Shirley. Shirley Phelps. I cannot stand that woman. But what I felt was a lot of people that were watching, especially our crowd that was watching that debate, just needed somewhere to vent. So I decided to have a review of what was being said and to give people a chance to just say what they felt and say what they were thinking. And yeah, so that's why we're here.
Yeah. I was gonna say that most people in our community probably came in more or less like I did. Like I had the same opinion when I went in as when I came out. Like it's like I knew that she's a bigot, and I wasn't going to agree with a single thing she said. But of course, there are people who are more on the fence who don't, who aren't as open to queer people as we are. So yeah, she should have been. She should have. He should have attacked her more, I think. So yeah.
Eric here said, I would have challenged her completely on her theology, and that would not be the right form for it, of course. Well, yeah,
well, that depends. That depends. I mean, yeah, Microraptor is right. A lot of people went into it and came out of it with the same ideas, and the problem is that 1% or that 0.5% that would come out of it thinking maybe she's onto something there. That's what scares me, and I think that's not having faith in the people watching the stream. Drives that kind of movement to deplatform. I'm not for deplatforming. I'm not for silencing anyone. Let them have their say. And I know Jared will be with us soon. Thankfully, he's just having something to eat. So 82 Productions will be with us. But the point of it is, a lot of people, yes, would have come in knowing who they were. And again, there's that slight minority that could have come in that said, oh, maybe she's got a point here. And what was it that Katz was agreeing with her on? The entitlement culture, I think.
It was something about, I can't quite remember. It was something about that, and something about it's like just like the way America's kind of been over the last 15, 20 years. He sort of said I sort of, in a weird way, that he kind of agreed with her, though did not obviously support her sort of positions upon, but something about just the way America has kind of been over the last 20 years or so, which I guess I sort of got where Katz would say that, because I was sort of like, okay, that's like the sort of, because it was like the only like one half reasonable, and I don't even know if that's it, but it was one thing where it was like you could listen to and think she sounds half reasonable here, and then of course she said something else completely insane, which just reminded you, okay, yeah, they're they are just absolutely toxic group. It was it was something along that. I was trying to remember. I can't, but for the life of me, off the top of my head, I can't remember what it was she actually said word for word.
I mean, there was so much in that it's impossible to remember everything that she said, and it's kind of like she was attempting with every time she spoke, or every time she got a chance to speak, to shock people more, so they forgot what she said the last time she spoke. If you know what I mean. Did you get that?
I didn't watch it for long enough to have an
Yeah,
opinion,
I
to be
did.
quite honest with you.
I did, yeah.
Did she gish gallop at all?
No.
I don't think she did that.
I don't think she did. It was just, and I think, because this is what I think GE was going for, was discussing their theology, which is obviously what she came into, really what she was coming in trying to preach. But it was like, I think one point again where I think he really, it was brought up, but again, that could have been hammered home a lot harder. It's like, well, if you believe in this predeterminism thing, and let's say that we're all it's already been predetermined that we're all going to hell or whatever, and it's been predetermined who's going to heaven. Well, why are you even out doing this shit at all? Because it doesn't make no difference.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to see that point hammered home a bit blooming harder.
Yeah, I think she was let off on that a lot, and a few people actually said it, even in the questions and the comments that was made to her. If it's the case that we're all predetermined to go to hell, then why the fuck are you bothering going out into and protesting funerals? Why are you bothering to stand on street corners, and why are you determined to brainwash your children into thinking that this is an okay thing to do? And I've just seen Mr. Katz in the chat, so hello Katz.
Hello.
You have the link, mate, if you want to come in. If you have the energy after that after that discussion, by all means come in and have a chat with us. But yeah, no, it did just seem to me that every time she opened her mouth, she just wanted to create a bigger shock than what came before it, and that was brought on by, you know, slamming. At one stage she slammed her fist down on the table. I would have loved to see either Godless Engineer or Katz or Creaky just say, well, that solves it, doesn't it? And then just, you know, hammering the table. Because if you are going to ridicule someone, if you are going to rip the piss out of someone, that's the best way of doing it, is actually repeating what they do in that kind of dramatic
But yeah, but then, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe Katz is the one who could answer this or whatever. But is the hope that they're going to get her back on again? So they're playing a bit nicer this time, and maybe if they get it back again and get someone who can maybe hammer her a bit more. I don't know. That's something Katz. It's only Katz and Creaky can answer that. You know, I don't know, but.
I don't know. I mean, she might be interested. She might be interested again, but I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, you did sort of say that. I mean, and I did get it when they were sort of saying that this was after she'd left and they were talking with GE that, because they obviously, I think, probably had to do a lot of work to get someone from Westboro on, and you know, sort of say, look, you know, we're going to keep her. You're not going to get ambushed here or anything, which I get. Which I suppose you've got to be like that if you want to bring a guest on, I suppose. You know, that, you know, you need to make them sure that they're not going to be ambushed or something in any way, and that they're trustworthy as a channel. Which I totally understand. Because I think, you know, I think especially you're trying to build a channel like they're doing. Yeah, you know, you need, you know, guests need to know that they're not going to come on and get ambushed or anything like that. So I think they said, you know, there was, so I can't quite remember exactly what was said, but it was something like, we think we may have developed a little bit of trust there now, so it may be possible to get it back. Now, if they do get it back, yeah, I'd like to see her hammered a bit harder. I totally would like to see her hammered a bit harder.
So here's the question for the chat as well, and I'll go around everyone to see who you would like, if she did come back, who would you like most to see her go up against him? I know Aaron Ra was mentioned, genetically modified skeptic was mentioned, 82 Productions was mentioned, Jared, and he will be joining us soon. Who else do you think would be able to challenge her on that basis that would actually be satisfying?
I don't necessarily have a name off the top of my head, but I think it's got to be someone who's pretty damn clued up on theology, without a doubt, to take her on.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
JL Warren would be a good one, or JL Truth, depending on which one you're going with. It's the same person. Who else were we discussing earlier? That would be Math Pig.
I mean, Math Pig, I think would be good. You know, if he wanted to have that of course. You know, of course, but I think Math Pig could handle her.
Pip, what do you think? Other than Red's
sorry.
rhetoric.
I was away. Who should debate against her?
Yeah, if she comes back, who do you think would be best to be against her?
Apart from Riz.
That would satisfy you. Yeah. Well, Red's rhetoric is one man.
I can't really think of anyone else. I'd have to think about it. We have two things in the chat though. Aliman says Shannon Q, and Basic Trigonometry says
Yeah.
McRae.
Steve McRae might be good.
Yeah, Steve McRae would be quite good. Yeah.
But I mean, Shannon Q is more the psychology, isn't it, around it?
Mm. But I think again, Shannon likes to have more.
John Rapp, she wouldn't last 5 minutes against DKIS. He would lose the plot. Go on, sorry, got a scummer. What were you saying?
Yeah, I think. I mean, don't be wrong. I absolutely have a lot of respect for Shannon, but I don't necessarily know that she'd be the right person for that. And I mean, again, Shannon is more into having conversations than debates and so on. And again, I have a lot of time for Shannon because she can keep her cool through some pretty damn
Yeah.
I mean, like on the non sequitur show with those incels. I mean, why she kept her cool through that was incredible. But I don't know
when she loses that cool, she's
when
awesome.
she does,
when
she does.
loses.
But yeah. But again, I don't know I don't know. I think her other half, Paula G, is probably more clued up on the sort of theology side.
Paula G would actually be good, yeah.
I mean, like I said, I mean, Shannon, I think, handled Darth Dawkins pretty well, but I think Shirley Phelps Roper's another ball game altogether than somebody like Darth Dawkins.
Mm-hmm. So, well,
what about Paula G?
Paula G would be great. I'm not sure how Paula G actually reacts to debates, though. Oh, here we go. The boss is in. The boss is in. Jared, how are you doing? 82 Productions.
Oh, here was Goblin King.
You're muted, my
You're
friend.
muted.
I'm not the boss. I'm just the manager.
Yeah, same thing. Good to have you on. Really good to have you on.
Did someone else speak to you?
Oh. It was an entertaining day at work. Let's just put it that way. So I did end up missing the show on Agree to Disagree. But yeah, I just had to say the manager because it from what little bits I caught, that representative of the Westboro Baptist Church, it seemed like she'd be really quick to ask for the manager when things weren't going her way.
Yep. There was times there where she was really trying to pull back, wasn't it? But yeah, she would definitely ask for a manager. She wouldn't just ask for a manager; she would ask for the manager over the manager.
Yeah, it's just.
But surely she wouldn't need to speak to the manager because she's got a direct line to the highest authority. And
you know what I have found? The people who want to push that the most are genuinely and generally the most deluded people you will ever meet from what I've seen. And
so your name has been thrown out there a few times to debate Shirley from the Westboro Baptist Church. And one of the things that has been said was she was kind of given an easy ride tonight. She wasn't really challenged. She was asked for clarification on what she felt and how she thought about things, but she wasn't really challenged that much on what she propagated. So
there really is a fine line there. There really is a fine line there, because if you push too hard, it's like throwing a pack of lit matches into an open gasoline can. It's not going to end well. But at the same time, you still need to push enough, and this will probably be more criticism for the host and moderators more so than the actual people having the discussion. When a question is asked and the response is clearly evasive, it's at that point it's on the moderator to politely step in and remind the person that that was not the question you were asked. Can you please, for the sake of the audience, actually respond to the question that was put to you?
Okay.
Now, some people will think, hey, that's a dickish thing to say. But how else are you going to actually put someone's feet to the fire without pissing off a few people who are probably trying to white knight for the person that is getting the treatment?
Yeah, there was a few of them there was 2 or 3 of them in the chat that was clearly they were claiming that they were neutral. They weren't neutral, not a host.
No.
So,
Oh
yeah,
no, there was clearly 1 or 2 Westboro Baptist members in there. I had no doubt about that.
Oh,
And
of
I
course,
suppose-
crazy always travels in packs.
because you moderate
easy,
quite
I
a
think.
lot. I've seen you moderate a few things, and one of the things is there. I mean, I've debated. I've run a debate club, so I know exactly what you're talking about. There is that fine line there. Now, the controversial topics I haven't done any moderating for. So
Those
yeah,
are the most fun.
they are, but I'm usually the one debating the harder topics, so I don't really get to moderate it. So yeah, I mean, what was your position on because there's a way of moderating that can hold people to the fire while also being respectful, and it was thrown about there that there are certain debating channels who don't moderate at all. They just let it go.
Well, so again, like you had mentioned before, what is the purpose of the show? What are you actually trying to do? Are you trying to have a conversation, or are you trying to put on a show? You'll notice that the majority of the channels that let the dumpster fires go and happen, or the ones who quite literally cause it themselves and then egg it on, let's not pull any punches. They're there for the show, not the actual dissemination of the information. That's a byproduct of the show, but what they're there for the most is the show, the entertainment value. Now, I don't fault channels who are that sort of mold, as long as you're honest about what type of channel you are.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm really in a gray area with modern day debates, because James has gotten better, but he still has a way to go to actually be a better and more effective moderator, to be what he is wanting his channel to be.
Yeah. But then, like, how would you respond to someone like Shirley in a debate? Like, what, in terms of holding her feet to the fire, what would be your task
as the opponent or as the moderator?
As the opponent? Because there's people that want you to debate her.
Well, one, let's make this clear. To me, I actually do put the distinct difference between debate and moderated discussion. I actually look at debates, and I actually prefer it much more when that is actually put to a structured event the way it's supposed to be, where each side has a presentation to give, uninterrupted, to where they can lay out their position and their case for it, and then have a back and forth in the rebuttal period. That is a debate. What I prefer, my style, my preferred type of interaction is discussion. I like to keep the topics fresh in mind. That way we can actually talk through a point. But that's where a lot of people don't like me and don't like going against someone like me, because I won't let them get away from a point. I won't let them try to dance away onto another topic because they don't like where I'm going with my questions.
Yeah, and I think that's why we love watching you debate. And we love watching you moderate because you hold them to actually answering that question.
Oh, that last one I did, it was so much fun. And I show up as like, the better behaved you guys are, the less I have to do, which that's what I'm here for and hoping for. And then Travis had to speak up and oh child, there are many things that he could be taught. He just doesn't want to learn.
No, of course not.
I said that was kind of the format of this thing today. That was more of to be a discussion. So
it was more
than that. It was supposed to be more that than a quote unquote debate, and it was definitely set up to be that way. And yeah, as I said, I think the general feeling is that GE let her off the hook on a lot, or just the things that there's definitely things I listened to. I thought he could have pushed back on a lot harder.
GE, at what he is most known for, he has figured out his niche and what he's actually good at and has had success doing it. And I know this is going to come off as insulting, and I don't intend it to be, but I recognize it's going to come off this way. But GE is the only person that I've known to actually have debates with two particular people and lose, and from an analytical standpoint,
you can name it.
It's all right.
and
We brought
lose.
earlier.
Hang on, and lose to both G-Man and Hovind.
Yeah.
What you got to know.
Actually led to that.
Part of it is personality. It's not that GE is lacking the knowledge on the topics. It's how he conveys it and how he interacts with the opposition in the moment.
Yeah.
And knowing what your intellectual limitations are is a good thing. Like if I'm in a discussion with someone and they ask me something about a topic that I am very uninformed on or outright have no information on, I have no problem saying, that's a great question. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer because I don't have the requisite knowledge for it.
This is kind of why I would be very reluctant to jump into debates and whatever. A lot of the debates go on in the community. I don't feel, I'm not that clued up on sort of science enough to really even to go up against a flat earther. I think I could maybe come off marginally better, but I'm aware of my limitations there. Again, not a subject I really, I wouldn't feel confident enough, and because I haven't, never really done debating, I wouldn't take somebody like Hovind on. I mean, there was a friend of mine who offered Hovind. I won't say his name on here, but he is a YouTuber in the sort of atheist community. He'd never done a debate before, and he offered. He challenged Hovind to one, but I don't think he got a response. But I actually said, if you've never debated before, I don't know that I would jump in.
Don't start with Hovind. Don't start with Hovind because he has. The thing with Hovind is he is predictable. If you've seen enough of his material, you know what his talking points are going to be. You know how he's going to handle it. But if you've never dealt with that sort of conversation before, especially in a live environment where people are watching, cut your teeth elsewhere.
No, I would definitely not be. That would not be my. If I was going to jump into a debate with someone, Hovind is one of the last people I would choose for my first debate, and that's even if you know the topic way better than he does, which let's be honest, most of the people who go up against him do. But it's also if you've never debated before, Hovind is also the kind of guy who's going to try and get under your skin as well.
Yeah.
and he, you know, seen him do it a couple of times.
He has perfected his craft. He definitely
Yeah,
has
he-
that going for him, yeah.
That's why he didn't
Yeah.
like the debate with Katz, because the way I moderated it, what I said, the only times I had to step in was to keep Kent on track and to cut him off at the knees when he wanted to go onto a soapbox. Those couple times that I had to go in, I had to step in and say, no grandstanding, Kent.
Yeah.
You could just see it in his face that he was mad,
wasn't gonna
he
let-
was
yeah, he wasn't gonna
aggravated,
let-
but at the same time he was like, shit, I can't argue against that.
Yeah. Eric Hare in the chat says, I'm sorry, but I really feel that nobody has enough context to be able to do this. This is where genetically modified skeptic or other people who have been part of such a movement come in. I really don't see the point in having a discussion with an extremist like this unless the idea is to provide context for everyone listening who is unlikely to know anything coming into it. And then he continues, I think it's entirely possible to have a show that is based on illumination and information rather than pure entertainment and dumpster fires. And I'm fairly certain Katz agrees with me. Yeah, that's why Agree to Disagree was set up initially, because people did want to have these discussions without having the dumpster fires. That's fine. That takes preference, and that's great. And I've been on the show myself. The only thing with it is if you're going to draw people to your channel, you do kind of need big names, and I hate to play into this, but having bigger names and having those catch me titles, like anyone that knows anything about Westboro Baptist Church is going to want to see that, and to see who's going to be on from the church and what's the response going to be. I said my only problem, the only downfall I felt today watching it was more about trying to clarify crazy instead of challenging crazy.
Yeah, and that's where you got to be able to get through that clarification quickly. And that's where a lot of that sort of stance who doesn't want to be challenged don't like going against someone like me, because I will cut through and really power through. It's like, okay, no. Is this your message? Okay, you just said this. Is this what you really mean? And I will get them to actually clarify and work with them to steelman their argument before attacking it. But you got to make sure you get through that quickly enough so you have time to then attack the ideas. That way you don't fall into that trap of trying to attack the person instead.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I think GE was very much trying to steelman her position. I think the problem is then that she was allowed to go on for like a 5-minute response to something like that, where perhaps now whether that's on the mod or whether that's on GE to jump in at certain points and say a bit of both. This is supposed to be a free-flowing conversation, and perhaps perhaps GE could have jumped in on a few things. And I mean, I always think he was like, as I said a little while before you came in, Jared, I almost felt like he was being too charitable to her. When she's yeah,
exactly. You can. In trying to be that opposition, but without wanting to alienate the person you're talking to, you can soften your delivery too much and it be detrimental to your own position in the conversation. That is so easy to do. And that's where the background comes in, and also the mentality, because there are some people who can have that delivery, have that instance of, wait, no, that's not what we're talking about, and have the fortitude to step up and do that, even if it's an early discussion where they don't have the history, but they still have the personality and that fortitude to do it. And it's finding that balance, because oftentimes people who do that tend to be skewing towards the arrogant side in a bad way.
Yeah.
And that can be detrimental in itself.
Gareth said it right earlier. What she was doing was literally preaching. She was preaching. She had her talking points and she was let talk. And once you
That
let
is
her
where
go,
yeah, and that's where it's on the moderator to actually have the reins on the conversation and go, no. This is where the track is. Just for the moderators out there, both of this show, other shows, and everything. Don't think of it as you're trying to guide individuals, that you're trying to deal with people. A good way to visualize mentally how to properly moderate a subject like that, a discussion like that, think of it like riding a horse, and you're on the dopey horse that just wants to turn his head and start munching on whatever foliage we're walking by. No, I'm not talking about this from experience about a horse that I rode while on my honeymoon in Bermuda. No, not at all. Where you got to pay attention to where it's going, where the conversation is going. And when you feel it starting to drift off track because someone's monologuing, no. Back over here. This is where we're going. This is what we're doing. This is why we're here. This way. And again, having Cats and Creaky, their deliveries are well suited to be able to step in and do that. But you need to have the fortitude to actually recognize when it's getting off track, and appropriately and politely enough. You don't have to be completely polite, but polite enough to step in and be like, okay, no, this is what we're talking about. If you would like to talk about those things specifically, we can discuss it later and then have a better decision. Do we really want to give this person a soapbox to stand on?
that's an interesting point. That's a very interesting point, actually.
That was, and I feel kind of that may have been what the result of tonight was, that she kind of got a soapbox in a lot of ways, I feel.
But do you feel that that kind of comes with experience, though?
Yes. Yeah, oh, yeah.
You need to know what you're doing in order to be able to do that. And that's what I love about the channel, because it's such a new channel. And both of them will tell you they're not experienced. They're not overly experienced as moderators. So it's an interesting take to see how they're actually progressing in it.
Now, I know Katz at least recently was out there in the chat listening as he's laying in bed, and hopefully he's still awake enough to hear this. Use that experience as an educator to control the room. You don't have to dominate the room, but you need to guide it along.
Exactly. Oh my God, yes.
Actually, I was sort of saying that before you came in, Jared, that yeah, I mean, I think hopefully, you know, tonight for anyone, not just for Cats and Creaky, but for anyone who's like creators thinking of hosting a debate or whatever on their channels, hopefully that would be a learning curve for anyone who watched that tonight. If there's anything positive to take out of that, I think.
Oh, he's here. He's here. He's listening, Jared. Having said that, we're not. Well, I'm not, definitely not dissing what happened, because I love that channel. I'm very supportive.
Oh, I do. I love that channel as well.
Seeing the discussion and how it developed. Jared, I think your experience is just it's so helpful for a lot of us that haven't really moderated before, and that's why I'm delighted that you joined. Now, Mr. Sensible has just joined. Mr. Sensible, how are you?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Did you have much of a Keela? Did you have much of a problem with buffering tonight?
We've had little bits. I think a few people have mentioned it, but not much. I know the where were we earlier? It was actually on the stream with Agree to Disagree. I know Apple are having some terrible issues with YouTube at the moment.
Well, my stream was so bad it became unwatchable for people. I was doing a live debunk, so I pressed on, and then I finished my debunk, and I went into Discord and just asking, and they were saying, yeah, the buffering's bad. I listened to my stream. It was about 3 minutes behind me.
Wow.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, so at that point, I killed the stream. I rebooted my machine, started a new stream, and it was just as bad, so I gave up. and we just chatted on Discord for a while. But of course, the stream is recorded okay. So because I had a live debunk, what I'll do is I'll edit that live debunk and just produce it as a video. But the stream itself is a washout because of YouTube. But apparently, Colon checked, and YouTube's got issues in all over New York and wherever. Loads and loads. I mean, hundreds of people complaining.
Yeah, I've seen that all day. I know Apple were having some real issues with YouTube
I
today.
can go on my tablet here now.
There was a lot of issues with Apple products.
I don't touch Apple.
Glad I didn't stream today then. That's all I'll say.
Well,
Yeah, it would have been a washout, Jeff.
Yeah.
It is good to have
Well,
all of you with us.
I do I pretty much do everything on an old MacBook that I acquired for free a few months ago, because up until like a few months ago, any videos I was doing was just literally being recorded on my phone and uploaded. So
Was
yeah.
I was given out to actually a few times because I would attend live streams using Discord on my phone or using Meets on my phone, and obviously I don't have a bad phone, but it's not nearly the quality that of the mic that I'm using at the moment. So a few times people have said your sound is so bad, and I've listened to it since, and it like you watch my last video to all of the other videos where I'm recording onto my phone. There's a big difference. There's a big difference in sound quality.
Well, you know, we always said that it's your goats eating your internet, Keela.
Yes.
Well, I reckon that your goats now has spread and they've eaten all of YouTube. This is now the only stream that's running, I think.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait. Oh, who unearthed the Borg at the North Pole and gave them to Keela's goats? I mean, that's the only thing that could explain it, is your goats have gone to assimilate people.
that information is confidential. That's all I can say about that.
Well, I for one welcome our new goat overlords.
They are fair and just. They rule with an iron fist, but they are fair and just.
I thought it was an iron hoof.
I mean, I'm not going to say just the way this conversation's kind of gone. I think it's very good that we've perhaps tried to now have a constructive conversation on debates and discussions or whatever on YouTube, because originally, because obviously this was just intended as a stream that some people needed. I needed the vent. A lot of people came in.
We definitely needed the vent. We definitely
after
needed
that, but so I mean, it's very good in the way that we've got to a point where we're having a constructive conversation about, how we, any of us really could better do these things, and as I said, hopefully if anything has come out of this, it will be a learning curve for everyone, not just those involved directly with that stream tonight. And I totally support Cats and Creaky's channel, and I don't want to be I don't even want to be too hard on GE, and because I'm going to hold my hand up, I'm not saying I could do any better than GE. I think I'd have been terrible in that position. So I'll
give you a laugh. I'll give you a laugh. Right? I got about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, or maybe 3 weeks ago now. I think it was 2 weeks. Mr. Sensible had someone on his channel. Mr. Sensible, you might remember this. Mm-hmm. And in the course of the conversation, birds breathing through wings was mentioned, and politics was mentioned.
Oh God,
Yep.
If you had heard me in the side chat wanting to rip into this guy, I'm not good at debating.
So which guy was this, Keela?
I can't remember. Adam, I think. Was that his name? I can't remember his name.
Oh,
he was Flat Earth Institute.
Yes.
That guy. That guy.
Wow.
Flat Earth Institute. Birds breathe through their wings so they fly.
I was trying to organise a debate with him, and I was happy to do it on a neutral channel, like agree to disagree, fight the flat Earth, wherever. And all he wanted to do, kept pointing me to some website where you construct an argument, and you're almost drawing one of those flow charts, you know, with a decision model or whatever. Can you show this or can you show that? And then you go to that's not a debate.
No.
And I kept saying, look, what a debate. And I got tired of asking him in the end.
But he did come on. In fairness, he did come on.
No, it's just a chat. But I meant a formal debate where we've each got 2 or 3 points, argue the case, the other one argues against it, and then a bit of a free for all. But that hasn't happened.
Yeah, kind of like what Jared was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
An actual a proper debate, as in a debate worthy of the name debate, as opposed to a conversation or a fucking dumpster fire.
Can I ask? Obviously, we're talking about a whole debate, so I'm not expecting to go into it. But the one on agree to disagree with Shirley Phelps Roper, was it a dumpster fire then, or was it?
No,
it wasn't.
Not,
it wasn't.
no.
And I have to say, fair play to Cats and Creaky, because the whole point of that channel is to avoid a dumpster fire.
So was it a good stream then?
It was an interesting discussion. My personal feeling is that she was led away way too much, and she was allowed to propagate and speech make. It was literally preaching.
Would you say a good descriptive word for it from the, shall I say, rational side of viewing it could be boiled down to disappointing?
Yeah.
A little bit. I mean, I again, it depends on what you expect out of something like that.
Well, even a reasonable expectation of decent conversation, actually addressing the points and stances of either side, and actually feeling as though progress on the subject could be made into whatever the topic is specifically.
No, it was more clarification on we and the Baptist Westboro Baptist Church actually believe and do. And I think a lot of us, all you had to do was look up Google. Now that's simplifying it obviously a lot. But what, as I said earlier, she did the shock and awe tactic. She had, when she came on the stream, she had this big sign behind her saying, "God sent the coronavirus." And then she changed it halfway through. So that's the shock part. And then the awe part, the awe part, when then she changed the sign to "America is doomed." And she then went for the verbal assault. So she started talking about, she was asked something about why would God, or something about, she started talking about babies being in hell.
Give children cancer or something like that.
Yeah, why would God give children cancer and whatnot? So she started raising her voice at that point, but she was so controlled in her insanity that she just reined it in when she knew she was kind of right.
Enough.
Yeah. That's what I found scary about her.
She was very,
she was let do it.
She was very cool and collected, and there was times where it almost broke through. But I'm sorry if you were listening earlier when I said this. But she was like, she's a complete antithesis of somebody like a G-Man or a Nathan Thompson, who's going to spout crazy stuff but lose their shit whilst doing it, and get just triggered, and go up on a meltdown. She's saying crazy shit but reining herself in.
I've seen her lose it plenty of times.
All right, so it's making more sense now while people are nominating me to have a discussion whether, because I can be using just this tone and similar delivery, but I can poke crazy in such a way that they lose control.
And I suppose it's letting her lose control to the point where everyone on that stream can see how batshit crazy her ideas are. And it's the ideas that you have to challenge. But that didn't really happen tonight.
This was
and that's why I say disappointment.
Yeah,
I think this was brought up on, so GE did try one or two little jibes or whatever, but I don't think she picked up on them.
No, she didn't.
Yeah, you kind of got to know the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The part of the problem is it not only went like he did mention one of the first things he mentioned. So you have an issue with what you consider cosplay Christians. She was like, what's cosplay? What's that? You know, so it went over her head completely. But the problem is he spoke so fast in a way that it went over the heads of most of the people that were watching the stream. I caught it, and a lot of people missed it. Do you know what I mean? So it's those kind of technical digs that some of us would get, but a lot of us wouldn't.
Now, I would be open to making the offer of being another sacrificial lamb in a way on a subject of that bit, because there are some people who've watched me on streams enough know that my family history when it comes to religion is quite diverse. Like if you want to hear a rather messed up dichotomy between the religious affiliations of the family, one side of my family, Lutheran, to the point where my grandfather is actually a retired Lutheran minister and was a professor of religious studies at a major university here in the US. The other side of my family, Mormon. The Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints. So you want to talk about really seeing the screwed up sides of Christianity growing up? Hi, let's talk.
But that's what we were saying earlier, that it would be good for someone who has seen the, I wouldn't say the more extreme sides of religious belief. That maybe someone that has experienced kind of, and I would love to see you have a discussion with her. Just to see what would happen. I was so excited to see what Goddess Engineer would say to her and how he would react. And it was a very, very interesting discussion. But I did feel she was allowed to propagate. She was allowed to grandstand a little bit too much for my liking.
There was a question I asked in the side chat. And sorry, go on. I'll say it in a second.
Go on, Micro.
One thing I thought of was important is it to have an experience or knowledge about the queer aspect of it. That I don't know if Godless Engineer is queer, but I know that he's at least somewhat has read up on the topic. He has some knowledge there, and I know that it's not only that they hate gay people, but they have done other hateful things. And maybe it's possible to attack their general hatred instead of just the queer part. But I don't know how important that is to a debate like this.
Well, he's not queer, he's hetero married.
Yeah.
So.
Geez. This is one. I think there was a question. I don't know if it was the one that I'm guessing there was probably other people that asked the same question that they did ask, and maybe again, I'd maybe like to see it hammered, but it was read out, and that was like, and that is, does you think there's any chance? Why is it that they think, why, is it not even occurred to them that they may be the ones interpreting scripture completely wrong? And like, why did the Westboro Baptist Church have it right when everyone else, like the Catholics, Church of England, Lutherans, name the denomination, why do they think they have it right? And again, I think she gave some long-winded answer, but again, it's something that there could have been pushback on here,
Yeah,
because
especially
let's be honest, every denomination thinks they're the ones who've got it right.
But when she starts saying, everyone is doomed, or it's all predetermined. There is no what was it? What was it she was saying? There's no free will. There's no free will. There's no free will.
They don't accept free will.
Oh, okay, so if they want to go down that road, if they want to go with the Calvinist view of ultimate determination, no free will, everyone's doomed. So what does it matter then? Why are you out protesting? If it's all predetermined, why does it matter to you?
That was
that's
what
why
that was
a lot
what
of
was
people were saying.
sorry, yeah, that was the big question I think was asked. That again wasn't hammered home enough on them. Why are you even bothering with this? And I can't quite remember. I think G even asked, "Are you guys Calvinists then?" And she took some sort of it. She even took some sort of issue with the term Calvinist, even though that's quite clearly what they are.
Yeah, she said she wasn't a
I don't like that at all.
Yeah,
Ultra
because they don't
Calvinist.
worship Calvin.
Calvinists are too fucking wishy-washy, man. Ultra Calvinist.
Has anyone gone back and read the questions on the community post?
I'll be doing that now in the next.
Some of them
I'll
are
be doing
very,
that
very good, and I wish they'd been asked.
Which one?
Well, a lot of them. Too many to read.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the problem. She was only able to be there for a certain amount of time as well, so they were trying to get through the discussion bit and then to ask as many questions. Part of the problem was some of them came with insults, and when you have someone and you want to bring them back on, I mean, today was an interesting day because it set up an ability to bring her back. It set up that first little initial connection that the next time she comes on, she might actually be challenged in a different way.
Yeah.
And
So
that's where I'll
it's
give
pushing
Cats
it.
and Creaky that sometimes that initial soft entry to set up a future and actually playing the long game sometimes can be a good thing, because I saw the question come up before, what's the purpose of having someone like this on a show like that, especially if they're going to be given that sort of leeway and everything. You're playing play the long game a little bit. The best disinfectant for bad ideas is a heavy dose of sunlight. If you really want people to recognize the bad ideas that are out there, you don't necessarily have to criticize it. You don't necessarily have to be majorly critical of it, but you can expose the ever-loving shit out of it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Once what I also on why they have it right and every other Christian has it wrong. I don't know if we've had any religious people in this stream, but I do know that there are religious people in the community and they hate this version of Christianity. I know that religious people that I have talked to that are part of this community, this is not their yard. Like,
yeah.
All right, so I actually have to jump over to my Discord server because we are in the middle of the regular entertainment night stuff where we're going to be watching a couple movies tonight. So time to go relax, have some fun, enjoy the rest of this alcohol. Because, by the way, if anyone wants to have a good drink that is refreshing but will also get you to forget a lot of the stupid that we come across, vanilla vodka, orange soda. You now have a carbonated screwdriver.
Nice. I can't drink vodka. I can't drink vodka. Whiskey is my drink.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Jared, for coming on. I'm going to end the stream now in a few minutes now, in the next 5 minutes, because we have been going for 2.5 hours, and I thank everyone for coming in, for being with me in this madness. But thank you so much for jumping on.
Not a problem. Good night, everyone.
Night, Jared.
See you later.
Bye.
Good night, Jared.
So before anyone else jumps up, Kat, if you're listening, he is open to being your next victim for the Westboro Baptist Church. And again, well done to Godless Engineer, because that kind of thing is not an easy task at all. And we're not, this stream was not about, bashing Godless Engineer or bashing the channel, because again, it's a fucking brilliant channel. I'm proud to be a patron of it. Proud to be a member.
Well, as I said as I said earlier, yeah, obviously we all got critiques of the way, some of the way G handled it. But as I've said a couple of times, I actually have to give him a lot of credit for not losing his shit during that, because I don't think I could have.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
So I've got to give Godless Engineer a lot of credit for that.
Yep.
Oh, the Stingray is a bit late. Sorry, Stingray. Yeah, we are closing up. And I really, really want to mention someone in the chat for the incredible discussion that, and food for thought, because I am going to rewatch some of this just for the chat. Eric Hare has been putting fantastic points in the chat. Your knowledge, man, is amazing. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your knowledge. I'm going to go down the line with whoever's here. I'm going to go to Patriot first. You've been on the stream one of the longest. I can't kick Tatty out yet, but
no, you kind of need.
Yeah, I kind of need him. Pip, what's your overall thought of the discussion?
That was good. Thank you for doing this, Keela. It was nice to. Well, I think I've decided I'm more of a keyboard warrior. I don't really talk. I'd rather type it. But yeah, it was good listening to everyone's thoughts. Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming on, because I did see you in the chat and you were so fucking frustrated.
Yeah.
That you were one of the people. You were one of the people that I started this stream for. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Godless Scummer, what is your thoughts on what we've been discussing?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to you, Keela, for initially just giving me an opportunity to come on and vent some of the frustration of what I'd listened to. But I feel it's progressed in a way where we've ended up having a quite constructive conversation about what happened tonight and how we can maybe better deal with these things, all of us, in the future. So I think this has been a very, very worthwhile stream, and thank you for having me on.
And thank you for coming on. I've seen you a few times on Critical Cripples channel, so I know you're well able to talk, and your experience and your input has been fantastic as well. So thank you so much. Microraptor, I'm going to come to you next. What's your thoughts on the conversation tonight? What are your thoughts on the conversation that we've had and just the night in general?
It's been a productive conversation, I think. It's been a good one.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it was good to talk about it.
Because that kind of frustration, that level of frustration kind of can build up and you're just left there. How am I going to sleep tonight? Really quickly, I'm going to go to Mr. Sensible. I'm sorry about your stream, mate. That sucks, because I love your streams. You know I love your streams.
I know.
I can't wait. When
it's one of those
will the video be out, though?
The video, I'll probably edit it tomorrow, and it'll either be out Friday or Saturday, because I was doing a live debunk of Mitchell from Australia, and as a side, I gave Sleeping Warrior a little bit of a kicking and a burn as well. So that'll be out on Friday or Saturday. I mean, I only came across the Mitchell one tonight, and I just thought, oh, that's something to do in the stream. But I want it to be out soon, so I'll rejig the videos I got out. And if I can, I'll just say that tomorrow night I've got Mage the Design video out at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. And that's followed at 8:30 on Conspiracy Cat's channel. We're having a discussion about Mage and the design.
Oh, I can't wait.
So
I'll
it should be
definitely
fun.
be on both.
Cool. So it'll be a live premiere followed by a Cat's live stream.
And for anyone that doesn't know, Mr. Sensible is where I started. I came onto he's one of the only YouTubers, and I'll give this to you, Mr. Sensible. You're one of the only people who just brings anyone and everyone in to have their say, and see where you have your random nights, see what happens. and I came on one night and had a chat and ended up with a channel. So if you're wondering why I'm here,
it's my
Mr.
fault.
Sensible is the reason.
It's all your fault. I'm holding you personally responsible for this.
Sorry,
man.
Tats.
Absolute peer pressure, because the chat was adamant that I set up the channel, and thankfully Mr. Sensible, Cats, Creaky, all of them were very, very supportive in the initial stages, told me what software to download because I'd never edited a video before, as you can tell. So yeah, I owe all of this kind of starting off to Mr. Sensible. So thank you. It's great to finally have you on my stream.
Yeah, it's first time, isn't it?
Yay.
Yeah, because I've been on yours plenty.
You have indeed. So
But it's just
thank
the
you
wrong
very
time
much.
for you. Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, I'd like to see you all at the live premiere tomorrow at 8 o'clock and on Conspiracy Cats channel at 8:30 tomorrow.
You'll be there.
Absolutely. I'll be there.
Excellent. Thank you again. Good night.
Good night.
Of course, I need to mention the lady herself, Amy Hogan. You were there for pretty much the whole debate. What did you think of it?
Now that I've had time to use my strategies and calm down,
Yeah.
and now that I've got a good explanation, thank you for that, and thank you for having me on. I so appreciate it. Hearing the way it was described, what she was doing, made me handle her. I don't know if that'll make sense at all to anybody, but sometimes just hearing the actual explanation sometimes of what she's doing, what her technique was, actually just made me think, oh, she's just it was more, I find that the clinical explanation sometimes far more comforting than anything else.
Yep.
And I think that's why I fell out of religion too. But it was an interesting conversation. Her whole entire premise was just to shock everybody and get their reactions. And she did in the chat, but I think she was probably slightly disappointed because she didn't get everybody all upset.
Yeah.
Right. She didn't get anybody else worked up. So I hope she was disappointed that way.
That is a very good point. DE did not rise to her level of aggression at all. That is a very good point. I hope she was depressed going away from that. Do you want to tell people what's coming up on the iNetwork in 2 hours? In the 2 hours?
In a couple. Hopefully Dick will get back in time. The poor guy has an issue with his tooth, so he's trying to get that fixed. But hopefully we'll have part 2 of the therapies and treatments of autism tonight. So hopefully, cross our fingers that it all goes to plan.
Yeah.
Plus we have
fun.
We have lots of fun coming up all this week too, so that'll be fun. Thank you, Keela, once again.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
I just want to confirm that dentistry isn't one of the suggested therapies.
Yeah, no. No, ask Matt.
Dentistry is not one of the yeah. So over on the iNetwork, we have a range of different shows. Before I bring Taddy in, just to chill out because I am a shill and I am often on the iNetwork. So tonight on the iNetwork, in a couple of hours, the autism show. It's absolutely incredible. If you know of anyone with autism, if you know of anyone with children that might have autism, this is the show for you. It's not a point and laugh channel. It is how to deal with people in your life that have autism. It's a fantastic series. Tomorrow on the iNetwork, we have the pub chats, both the last orders, which is 10 p.m. on BST, and then we have the final call, which is I think 2 a.m. BST.
Yep, 9 a.m. East, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. And then Friday, obviously 1 a.m. BST, we have the Silly Shills. Saturday at 11:30, we have the Silly Shills. And then Sunday all day, we have the Barman's Poker. We have, just to throw it out at you, we have the excellent, and Mr. Sensible, you have to watch this and let me know what you think, the Pain of Progress series. And we have, of course, the Uncalled For. So huge weekend coming up on the iNetwork, starting tonight we don't really do weekends. We go the whole fucking week. So if you're waiting for any content, you know, that's kind of where I'll be, and I'll be working. I'm overdue, long overdue, because summer is in full swing here. So I'm overdue with some of the challenging conspiracies, and I'm overdue on a video for Where's Wally. You've seen him in a chat earlier on. He was given out to me. Love you, Where's Wally, and I will get that to you in the next 48 hours. So, Taddy, what the hell did you think of tonight?
Oh man, Jay. As I say, thankfully I just really caught the tail end of it, so I wasn't quite as riled up. But I'm about to go back and watch it, and I'm looking forward to getting through at least half a bottle of whiskey and shouting quite a lot at the telly. But yeah, no, just going by their previous form and knowing that this is actually the mouthpiece of the organisation, like the kind of like the certified official mouthpiece, it doesn't really fill me with a lot of hope, shall we say? Because yeah, just nasty people.
Well, I got in touch with Taddy just before it started, knowing that was going to be a fuck show. And decided, you know what, we should do a stream. And unfortunately, obviously, I have go-powered internet, so my internet is not strong enough to run the stream. And Taddy quite often stands in and produces, and couldn't do it without him. Absolutely couldn't do it without him. So yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming and for watching for nearly 3 fucking hours, you crazy fucks. I'm wondering why I'm
sorry to interrupt, Keela. Can I just give one parting thought that I wanted to give, and I forgot to, and I think it'd be a good way to sum up. Fuck the Westboro Baptist Church.
Hell yeah.
Amen.
Yep.
Holly fucking Lula.
You said it, brother.
Absolutely. I think that's the main thing that came out. That's the main thing that came out of tonight. Fuck the Westboro Baptist Church. They are cunts. And I will say the C word. I know people don't like the C word. They are cunts. I can get away with it. It's my channel. Fuck you all. Well, in about 10 minutes, Red's Rhetoric is going to be challenging Spurs on Rockets. So that's going to be a bit of a dumpster fire. So if anyone does want a dumpster fire, that's the place to go. And I will see you all very, very soon. So, Taddy, take us out. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Fuck it off.